Good afternoon, everyone. Again, we're here to talk about additional ways and opportunities that we can help provide value to you and your customers. So once again, we think about the silos of operation opportunity, life annuity, ACA Medicare, alternate investments. So this is another way that you can help your customers. And I just met Brandon Rockstar Rooks a couple weeks ago, roughly, or last month is the easy way to put it. And he just, through a friend, Carson Porter, who's going to be at the Great Collaboration coming up, referred me over to Brandon to talk about, different ways that we can service clients, different ways that we can use and leverage this opportunity in our industry as well, and ultimately do good for our community, and our community will do good for us. So with that, I'm going to hand the rock over to Brandon Rockstar Rooks, talk about Rockstar Capital Fund, and take it away, my friend. Appreciate you being here.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks, Phil. Um, there's so much to cover. I'll just give you a real brief, kind of a brief history of who I am and how I've come to do what I've done. I came out of the Navy in 1992. I was an advanced electronic warfare technician and operator, so I ran the anti-ship missile defense system, served 3 tours in the Persian Gulf, and saw combat. So I'm technically a combat Desert Storm Navy veteran. But when I got out of the Navy, I wanted literally nothing to do with electronics after that. So I went into sales. I've always been one of those guys that's absolutely loved the sales field. I've been selling since I was a kid. And, if I wanted Nikes or a new bike or something like that, I had to go out and work and earn it. I'd probably sell from a catalog and sell like Christmas wrapping paper and gift cards. Somebody that probably rings a bell with a few of you. And then I had a lemonade stand, but I also sold cookies and comic books. So I learned upselling when I was really young. And if I couldn't sell something, I was mowing lawns, picking up sticks, yards, shoveling driveways. I'd go out and pick wild berries. And then whatever my mom didn't use for making jam, jelly, and pie, I'd go around to the neighbors and sell off all the extra. So um, I fell in love with sales, not because of that sleazy salesman type mentality. More, I love helping people get something they want, need, or desire, making it affordable and making it comfortable. And I've always approached what I've done in life that same way. It's not about making the sale and making a buck. It's about helping somebody buy something they want and have them buy from someone that they can, be proud of, or there's integrity and someone that stands behind the product. And that's really led me to where I am today. Um, I didn't give myself the nickname Rockstar. It was given to me in the mortgage industry in the early 2000s. I believe I told Phil that story, but we'll save that for another day. And what I've done is I've been in real estate investment arena since the early 2000s, and I've tackled and handled just about every type of real estate investment you can make. And I've built up a loyal base of clients that have been following me and investing with me for years. One of the great things about who we are now at the Rockstar Capital Group is we are 100% a referral syndication and operation. I currently have well in excess of 550 investors. We have about $80 million in assets under management. We're invested in 3 different real estate syndications where all we do in our space is we're in and out at dirt. And that's what makes us a really highly specialized niche in the market. The most profit margins are in the dirt. And a lot of people don't realize that. They think it's the going vertical and having the doors and the rooftops and the tenants and the toilets and property management and all this. And believe me, I was there. At one point, I owned up to 500 doors. And I just got tired of what we call tenants, toilets, and trash and property management. Don't get me wrong, you can make a lot of money in it. It accelerated my wealth. But when the time was right, I sold out of all that stuff, and now we're in and out at dirt. And there's just little to no brain damage. I don't got to worry about people or tenants, and the profit margins are huge. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. What's important to you guys as a group is who you're taking your clients to. And what you get by coming with us is a track record. I've morphed along. Like I said, I've done everything. I was doing private investment notes, acting as a consulting agreement, acting as a consultant in the real estate investment space. I've helped clients purchase over $1.5 billion of physical real estate. And I've also helped a lot of them exit and make some phenomenal returns because we bought real estate property at the right time and sold at the right time. And what we morphed into was I became kind of a capital raising partner to my strategic partners in the Southeast. And that happened. We started our first Rockstar Fund in 2018. Since then, we opened four more, merged all four of those into what we have now, which is a Reg A Tier 2 offering. What's really great about this is it's almost like a public offering. I could list this with broker-dealer platforms. I just choose not to because broker-dealers are greedy and they want a whole lot of money to sell your crap, and they don't even guarantee you that they'll bring you an investor. And they like you to just fund all their travel and trips and expenses and whining and dining and all that stuff, and you're not even guaranteed that you'll get an investor. So, and the amount of money they want was just like, you know what? I can do a better job myself. I like small groups like this. I like working with people one-on-one. I like, proving uh, an operation where you've got a little bit more give and take. We all get to know each other. We know every one of our investors, and a lot of them have been with us for years. And if you go to our website at rockstarcapitalfund.com, I highly encourage you to poke around in there, read a lot of the testimonials. Believe me, they're all real. I've had some people say, oh, anybody can write a testimonial. I'm like, all right, go ahead and read them. Pick out 2 to 3 names at random, and I'll put you in touch with those investors. So pretty easy to call their bluff. But a Reg A offering means that I have to submit my financials up to the SEC every 6 months. I also have to have a third-party CPA audit done every year. So there's some serious SEC compliance with the offering that we have. And under the Rockstar Capital Group, we have paid out between 12% annual returns, and we've hit as high as 16.5% annual returns to our investors. And that's audited. So it just depends on who we're lending to, the notes that are closing, what's happening in the land space. But that's basically what we do. Investors invest with us. We turn around and lend to our partners in the land game. And this is where it gets really unique. What I've helped BRD Land and Investment do in the past 5 years is grow their operation from basically bootstrap, their very first project, which was a 99 lot townhome piece of ground that they picked up for $3 million, that they turned around 6 months later and sold for 6.3 million to Ryan Homes and never even put a dollar into the project. It was the wake up call of what the hell is happening here? Because we used to also, I'd lend to them and they'd go and build and they'd go vertical. It was pretty interesting how it happened. What we learned is when you're dealing with some of the biggest national builders in the country, their build costs are so low that they can pay top dollar for shovel ready dirt. And that was where the light bulb went off. We were building at about $95 a foot. They were building at less than $65 a foot. So they can pay more for the dirt. And that's where this all really comes together. So we started making that switch. And since then, 5 years ago, and now we have 80 million in assets under management invested in their operations. They own or control $1.5 billion of dirt in 5 states, which is about 56,000 lots in the projects that they have that they're working on right now. It took 4 years to sell the first $104 million of projects. Last year they sold 70 million in 1 year. They actually were on track to sell a little over 114 million, but they had like a $33 million deal that kicked from last year into this year. That just means this year will be even bigger. They're on track to do 150 to 200 million this year. So they're now in that ramp up stage, and we've become an industry disruptor. If you were to look at BRD land operations and the amount of land they own or control currently, it would actually place them as the number 14th largest builder in the country. And hardly anybody's heard of us, which is exactly what we like. Fly under the radar, keep things under wraps. This is where opportunity presents itself. This will be a company that'll go public in the next 3 to 5 years. And when it does, everybody that's invested under the operation will see a really nice return when that happens. And then we'll go on and do more stuff because I'm highly connected in the family office space. And once you start getting over the 100 million in assets under management, which will be there easily by the end of this year, there's a lot of opportunities that get presented. So basically what we do is we accept investors that are accredited or non-accredited. I've made the entry point ridiculously low. People can invest with us with as little as $10,000. The operation is simple. It's $1,000 shares. You can invest if you're accredited or non-accredited. You can start with as little as $10,000. You can do any amount you want over that $10,000 amount in $1,000 increments, 13,000, 26,000, 94,000, whatever someone is comfortable investing. And you start earning the minute your money hits our account. We turn around and put it to work. Everybody under Rockstar Capital Group earns a 10% annual preferred interest. Let me break that down. If somebody invested $100,000 with us and they were in for a full calendar year, they'll earn $10,000, and they would receive that in quarterly distributions of $2,500. They also become a K1 limited partner, which has tax advantages. All that preferred return comes back looking like a return of capital on a K1, not taxed. Profit sharing shows as interest earning gains. But initially, because there's also some write-offs from the fund operation, which, by the way, based on whatever our active capital is, we have about 3% total operation expenses. That's management, banking, legals, attorney, registrations. We have to register in all 50 states with Blue Sky. I've got to keep all these things up to date. These CPA audits are not cheap, but that's everything. Staff and operations and the whole kit and caboodle. Most funds or syndications allow for 5 to 8%, and I've seen some that are actually a hell of a lot worse. There was, a matter of fact, there was an article I was reading the other day about a huge fund, multi-billion-dollar fund, that earned 15.3% in the fund, but only returned 2.8% to their investors that year because of all their fees. It's pretty nuts. We like to pay our investors. Very little cost of operation for us. I want money going back to our investors. Like I said, if you missed it early on, we've paid out anywhere between 12% to 16.5% per year to our investors. Last year was a little bit of a dip. Not having that big sale at the end of the year hurt. So we only paid out 12.5% to our investors last year. But if you want to go and look at the REITs, commercial and residential and verticals and even some of the biggest REITs in the country or real estate investment funds or trust, we beat them all. I think the top one I saw was like 11.3 or 11.9. So most of them were averaging somewhere in the 8 to 9 to 10% range. So we had a little bit of a down year, but that just means this year will be bigger. And things are really, I couldn't be happier than what we've kind of moved to. I wished I'd learned how profitable dirt was 20 years ago. This would be a whole different conversation today. But just to keep it simple and just to give you an idea of how it works, because it's important that you know when somebody invests, what are they lending on? I gave this example to Phil before. This is the best way for me to explain this. Our land asset managers go out and source off-market ground. So they find a landowner, farmer, or someone that inherited land, or someone just has land in the zone of where our national builders are looking for projects. And they'll go to that seller and they'll look, your ground fits all the criteria that our builders are looking for. What we want to do is your ground is worth X. We could buy it today. You can make X amount of dollars. We'll take it and we're going to turn it and make it highly valuable. We're going to sell it for probably 10X what you're looking at. But they say if you stay in the deal, we'll take care of all the cost to get this thing fully entitled, permitted, all the easements done, all the zoning done, all the laterals. We'll get the engineered. That means it'll be a plat with what the lot lines look like, how many houses someone could get on that project or that piece of ground. And we'll do all of that. And then your ground will be worth XX. And they'll negotiate a price somewhere in between that with that seller. The seller's excited because they're going to make a hell of a lot more money and they don't have to worry about how to get it done. So let's say they land on a $4 million price for this piece of ground. Then they'll put down the deposit. They'll start the environmentals, fit studies, soil studies, check easements, check the title, make sure that everything will come together. When they're through what they call risk hurdles, meaning it's not a question of if the land will go to permitting, it's just a matter of when. Then they come to me and like, okay, hey, Rockstar, we're buying this one for $4 million. We're going to need $500,000. We'll pay you 30% APR. First time I said this to anybody, they're like, that sounds too good to be true. That's bullshit. That's not feasible. This is a scam. Nobody's going to pay 30%. And I'm like, well, the devil's in the details. Let's say that at the end of the year, everything's done. They get ready to close on the ground for $4 million, which a lot of times they already have sold to a builder. So it's a simultaneous close. Then they come back and they got to pay the 500,000 plus the 150,000 in interest. They're all in at 4.65 million. Guarantee you that ground sold for 10 million or more. That's a $5.35 million profit. $150,000 interest carry on $5.35 million in profit is like 2%. It's peanuts. So it's just understanding the math. And for a lot of people, like as soon as I tell them something like that, they just hear what they want to hear. They assume they know everything about real estate. That's not feasible. That sounds too good to be true. Well, that's why I have a Reg A offering that has to send up financials every 6 months and an audit every year. Too good to be true is only too good to be true if you can't prove it. We can prove it. So solid track record. We've never missed a distribution. We've had multiple profit sharing quarters, or what we call upside quarters. Just means there's extra interest over and above the preferred return that we pay out and our operation expenses. And then we share that with our investors. They get 60%. We get 40%. I've had a lot of people go, well, it should be an 80-20. We should get 80%. And I'm like, yeah, but you're probably not getting a 10% preferred if you're earning 80%. You're probably waiting for the deal to happen. You probably didn't get any money at all. And I've seen them, the other structures out there. A lot of them pay a 6% preferred. And they might offer an 80-20, but they also have 8 to 10% in operation expenses. We have 3. Devil's in the details. Everything's in the math. We pay well, and I'll tell you why. If I take care of my investors take care of me. It's why I've never had to do anything outside of a referral network or being introduced to people like Phil to get into new circles. It's the reason that I raise $1 million a month. I never pick up the phone. That's just my investors adding to their investment, which you can do, or they're sending us somebody that they know, friends, family, whatever. And how long before the investors can get the principal back? Great question. It's like a bank. If you invest the money, as long as your money sits with us, I keep that money working and earning. If you need that money back, if you're not happy earning 13, 14, 15% a year, you can request it back. I offer 100% redemption after 12 months or partial. If you got 100,000 in and something comes up and you go, hey, I need $20,000, you can request $20,000. I don't charge anything for selling off those shares. I sell those shares to the next investor coming in, or as we have notes close and principal comes back in, we can take the principal to pay those shares. You can keep some of it in and continue earning. Or if you need to cash out everything that you're invested in, you can get it all back. But like I said, if you're earning, and I guarantee you we'll be in the low to mid teens this year. And if we're paying that and you can find something better, then kudos. Just make sure they got a track record and make sure they can document it with audits and financials. So, but yes, 12-month minimum, and it's 100% redemption option. I don't charge anybody anything if we sell off those shares to the next investor or we cash you out. So I've really made this kind of simple, and I'll tell you why. I'm if you could see me, well, I'll stand up. I'm in blue jeans. I am a blue jeans, blue collar kid that grew up, no silver spoon in my mouth. I like to keep things simple. It's we go out and meet a lot of our investors. We'll be at Valor Financial's event here soon. Hopefully, I get a chance to meet a lot of you there. Um, I'm still kind of old school. I like the handshake kind of business, but of course, we do document everything with fully legal documentation for our operations. um, so again, that's pretty much it. You can invest with us. You can keep the money working. We just opened up and offered our drip option, which means if someone's investing and they just want to compound and grow, they don't need the money for passive income, then your distribution can come back and just add to your investment and you continue to grow it that way. This is a great way if someone's using like whole life or universal life, want to borrow against your policy, and you want to build something there, you can use the proceeds to pay off the policy. Matter of fact, that's a really good strategy. This is a really good strategy if someone has a IRA and you want to move it to a self-directed IRA custodian. Now you can invest HSA IRAs, SEP IRAs, solo 401ks, traditional Roth, especially in a Roth. Good Lord. Talk about way to build that up.
So would you
Are there a
do
couple other
that?
questions over here?
I was gonna say, would you do that at like a Fidelity or a Chuck Schwab, and then you send the money to you guys, and it just continues to compound and grow with no tax implication until you distribute it?
Great question. You cannot do it with Fidelity or Schwab because of how their structure set up. And they say they have self-directed
Yeah.
IRA, but what you actually have to do is do a rollover to a self-directed IRA custodian. Then you can elect to invest in alternative assets. Under Fidelity and Schwab or companies like that, they'll tell you they have a self-directed IRA, but you still can only invest in options they give you that are all in the stock market.
Like cookie cutter. Yeah. So do
Yeah,
you guys have a self-directed kiddie pool, so to speak, or
I have three
recommended?
different self-directed IRA custodians I can recommend that covers pretty
Perfect.
much coast to coast. And
Mhm.
it, believe me, I have worked with about everyone out there. And there are many that you don't want to deal with. They're nightmare, terrible at response, paperwork is hell. I've seen them take six weeks, 3 months to ever even get anything accomplished, lose your paperwork. So there's three. If somebody wants to switch, reach out to me, but it's Horizon Trust, Mountain West IRA, and Camaplan. And I can make sure that everybody has that information. Camaplan's on the East Coast, Horizon Trust is West Coast. Um, uh, Mountain West IRA is central, and I think Horizon's also in the central US, but Mountain West IRA is in Boise, Idaho, so they got the mountain time zone. So you can work with any of them from any place, but sometimes it's just nice to be in your same time zone, right? And I know the owners of all three of those businesses. I personally have all my self-directed IRAs with Mountain West IRA, and they're simple. They understand our paperwork. They get things done within 24 to 48 hours. That's what you want, very simple and clean. And it's a rollover. It's not a taxable event. It's just taking someone asked about a 401k. Yes, you can take your 401k and roll it over to a self-directed 401k, and then you can invest with that as well. Any kind of IRA that's out there.
So, what I would just kind of emphasize too is, Brandon will be at our TGC event, and then at the end of the day, we'll have Carson Porter we'll talk about how to leverage and get $1 million premium ticket in the life insurance industry. So Brandon kind of alluded to that in regards to using the bank on yourself strategies, if you will, that Whole Life does, or if you like to supercharge it with IULs. One scenario that you can think of that I've used or tried to use in the past with a different organization, but say for example's sake, like I have a client who was going to put in a premium deposit account at an insurance company, and the premium deposit accounts are usually about 3%. And we were looking at doing about $2.5 million in that premium deposit account, and then it would give you 133,000, I think was the total per year. Well, what happened was I was saying to him, I was like, and sorry if my internet gets a little funky, so if I blipped out, I apologize. But the premium deposit account only gives 3%. And we were basically saying like, well, hey, if you put in this alternative investment, then every year you could basically pay your insurance premium with the interest, and then you keep your principal and you have this overfunded life insurance policy. So, is there an opportunity for someone to, for example's sake, you know, put money in this investment, have it grow, and then take the proceeds and put it into the life policy? And now you're basically making money work for the customer as opposed to the customer working for money, the best way to put it. Um, One question I'll ask you, Brandon, which I'm sure people are uh, often thinking, and I deal with a lot of, foreign national markets, so they often question two things. One, can you use the word guaranteed? And two, if someone goes across the pond, for example's sake, moves back home, liquidity options, you kind of answered that with the, hey, we can sell your shares, but can they also access the funds if they move back across the pond?
Yeah, not a problem. As a matter of fact, we can take international investors. There's a few rules. There's a little bit other paperwork to fill out. Typically, you can be from just about any other country. There's a few of them that are blacklisted. I'm sure most of you can imagine who those might be. And but there's a couple extra forms to fill out. Typically, they want to see that you have at least some sort of an LLC stateside or a stateside, type, U.S. bank. Um, I've got people that work in the cruise industry that actually, um, live in Russia and work on the cruise ships. There's a lot of foreign nationals that, live in some of those other countries. And believe it or not, from where they were in Russia, they can actually invest with us. So, but I have an attorney that can go through all that. So yes, we can work with those. If someone moves back, again, redemption is redemption. If you can make it into the fund, which almost everybody can, then if a redemption option is needed, you know, the way we look at it is typically if it's a fairly small redemption, something in the under six figures, we can typically handle that within 2 to 4 weeks. And if it's larger, it might take a little longer, but that's just to remember that we keep the principal working in land notes, and those land notes don't just close like every other week. So, but as we have new investors come in, we can always sell those shares to the new investors, or we have notes close out. That's when we can carve out some principal. And so far I've been able to give those redemptions pretty quick. We did have a little bit of a surge in redemption requests here recently, but it was a network group that I was in where several of their other investments didn't go bad or didn't go well. And we're the one that was performing. And then they've come to me like, because they're in a cash crunch. So I've been working with them to kind of help them and like do some partial stuff. And every one of them's like, as soon as we get back on our feet, as soon as we're good to go, we're coming right back to Rockstar because you guys have outperformed every other investment we've been in. So I would just say that again, invest what's comfortable. You always want to lead your clients in multiple directions. Age old adage, don't put all your eggs in one basket. And someone might I've had clients come to me and like, man, well, that's the best returns I've ever heard. I want to put all my money with you. I'm like, no, you don't want to put all your money with me. I'm confident in what we do. We have a great offering, but you should always diversify and just be honest with people. And that's the kind of integrity we have around here. We want to build a lifelong type investor. And I've got investors that have been with me since the early 2000s that are in Rockstar Capital Group. And, I've got a couple other opportunities that are available, but an investor has to come into Rockstar Capital Group first. That's the Reg A. It creates a relationship. And then I do have Rockstar BFR Invest, which is a 506B, but somebody has to be in the Reg A first before I can open that up to them. And that's a little bit of an equity play with preferred interest and cap return component to it. But we can discuss that for someone that has enough to kind of split or diversify their investment out. It may still be both under Rockstar, but it is two different types of investment opportunities. And so that'll be an option as well. But yeah, really easy to work with. And I have an attorney out of Florida that is over all of our entities and all of our stuff. And again, we have to file blue sky filings, in pretty much all 50 states. I think we have investors in 47 states right now. And last count was somewhere over 550 investors. And a lot of them have invested personally, invested a little bit under their LLC. Some of them invested their kids' IRAs, that are younger so they can build those IRAs up for college. And we can work with just about anybody. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
You know what? One of the things I always tell everybody is our slogan is kind of like in and out at dirt. And there's just not much you can do to screw up dirt, you know?
Yeah,
And I've done everything.
Jessica has got a question, and also I will say after her question, safety of that working, this way versus this way. So I want you to kind of emphasize that. But Jessica, you go first with your question.
Thank you. Can you please explain again how the taxation works on the K1 income?
Yeah. As a K1 limited partner, at the end of the year, you get a K1 and your tax basis eventually goes down. I'm going to use general terms here because there's a little bit of differences and it all depends on each individual person. But let's say someone invested 100,000, they were in for the whole year. We pay a 10% annual preferred return. At the end of the year, they would see $10,000 show as a return of capital on their K1. So now they have a $90,000 tax basis. They're not taxed on the $10,000 that they got back. They still own $100,000 of shares. They're still going to earn 10% on $100,000 of shares, but they just had $10,000 that wasn't taxed. Profit sharing or upside will show as interest earnings or gains, but then there is still a little bit of a write-off there still because we have operation expenses of around 3%. So it'll fluctuate a little bit, but they'll see their tax basis eventually go down. Does not mean that they own anything less than their original investment. Just means that they're taxed less until it goes to zero. Once it goes to zero, then everything is interest earning gains. They're taxed at that, but it's also a long-term interest earning gain, not a short-term. Like if somebody was to do a note and it paid off in 6 months or 9 months, their tax rate would be higher because that was a short-term interest gain. What's really cool about that is there's always loopholes to everything, right? Let's say you get to the end and now your tax basis is zero on your K1. Well, you could always do a redemption of the whole thing, then turn around and reinvest and start the whole clock ticking over again.
So are there more mechanics involved in getting it so that there's no tax liability for the client based on any earned income that they get from any profits? Or do they just not have to pay taxes on it?
You're not paying taxes on the return of capital. You're only paying taxes on what they call return on capital. But that tax basis is still going to be low for quite a while as they're getting their interest distributions from the offering. Everybody's different.
Okay.
Everybody will have different write-offs too. So I don't want, good question
Yeah.
for a CPA. Happy to
Yeah.
share that and happy to put my CPA on there.
No, I would actually, I would love to know the answer to that question, because my bigger question, Phil, and you can help with this. So let's say
Yeah.
there's a client who is 90 years old, who may not be able to pass any underwriting, and they have a whole life policy that is like maxed out, and they've been taking loans off of this policy, and they're trying to figure out what to do with all of the income, all of the money that they have inside of this policy. So it's sounding to me like this could potentially be a good option for someone like that to kind of go backwards and take money out of the policy and stick it into this investment. But then if their gains are going to cause them to have a tax liability at the end of the year at 90 years old, that may not be something that they're really looking,
no.
you know what I mean?
At 90, they may likely never see a tax gain that really affects their end result at the
Okay.
end of any year, unless they live to be 120. That could happen.
Potentially. Mhm.
I mean, peptides, right? They're going to find
Yeah.
peptides that are going to make us live to 120 now. So, but
Yeah,
no,
the-
at that age, this is a perfect vehicle. And
It's sounding like it could be good. Yeah.
it could. And here's something I'll also say to all of you guys as agents, you know, I've made this really easy to get into. It's a great opportunity. We have a lot of investors for a big reason. We've taken this from, you know, basically zero in 2018 to 80 million in assets under management and a track record of always paying. People invest with people that believe in what they do. So might think of it for your guys' self. If you wanted to get in, entry level is low. It's even something that you're comfortable going, I've invested, I've done my homework, I've done my due diligence. I'm comfortable enough. And it also gives you a chance to make a little money yourself and see the returns happen and see everything happen. This could be something that works well for you. And yeah. And Phil will talk about the benefits of having Rockstar Capital in your corner and how that can help you with your operations. You know, most our communications are top notch. All of my team knows we're a family business, by the way. Like both my sons work for us, my two sister-in-laws work for us. I hired my wife's best friend that she's known for longer than we've been married. She ran the national accounts for Discount Tire, and we've been married 29 years, so she's known her longer than that. Moved her from Arizona out to here, so it's like a family. All of us are family, but they all know our communications have to happen same day. Anybody reaches out to us, they get call, email, text, or follow up same day. Unless it's late at night, then it might be the next day. But that's something that, okay, someone said it's not 10%, it's not on top of the 15. We've paid a total of 12% up to as much as 16.5% every year since inception. So 10% is the preferred. That's what they're going to earn. That's what they're going to see in quarterly distributions throughout the year. So if you invested 100 grand, you were in for the whole calendar year, you would see $10,000 come back as a 10% preferred. Anything over and above that is the upside that is shared. And that's how we've paid out the 12% to 15% per, well, 16.5% per year.
Kinda like-
So
Also,
is it,
keeping in mind, we started one of them at 8% preferred. So when we paid 12%, that was still 4% upside for the year.
It is not for accredited investors, Jay. So we can have
Accredited and
unaccredited.
non-accredited. Non-accredited has some rules, and they just have to fill out the subscription and questionnaire. It's 10% of their net worth or average annual income. But that's only for the Reg A. If they come in the Reg A and they have more than that to invest, that same restriction is not on a Reg D 506B. So that could be an opportunity if they got a little extra to invest and they want to move over into the other offering, which we can talk about. You know, they have to go on the first one first. Let's keep it simple and easy. But there's no limitation on that one. Then that one has a cap return component as well as preferred interest and an equity profit share of the operation. As they see their cap return or interest come from that, it can always be added to their Reg A, and that can help compound it and grow it from there.
Long
You know what's
story
funny
short,
is-
I was just say, long story short, we've got you to help out I'm assuming when we have customer questions like that too, right?
Yeah. Politicians write all these crazy rules and crazy ways of, well, you see them go into office making 170,000 a year and they come out millionaires, right? It's because they learned how to write all these stupid rules. So you just got to know what those rules are and how to play the game. So
Yep. Yep.
So all I know is like 1, 2, 3 rule. $1 million net worth, 100,000 single income, or 300,000, 200,000 family income, right? So most of them, they may not exactly fit in that, but they are ready for any investment, they are ready to sign. But again, we need to have the clarity on whether they are suitable for it.
Mhm.
everybody can invest. We just have to, if they're non-accredited, then we just have to take a look at their subscription questionnaire to figure out what's the maximum they can invest in the Reg A. But again, if they're like, well, I had a guy, matter of fact, he came to me about 2 weeks ago and he's like, I got 50,000 I want to put to work. He goes, my best friend's been using you for 10 years. And he's like, you've paid without fail. And I'm like, he goes, I says, you just now finally doing this? And he's like, yeah. He goes, I want 50,000, but he could only invest 27,000 in the Reg A. But his extra 23,000, he could invest in the Reg D, which is called Rockstar BFR Invest. And it has a 9.5% interest. It has a 3-year cap return. So at the end of year one, they get 25% of their investment back. And then they earn 9.5% on the balance that's invested. At the end of year two, they get 35% of that back of their total. And then at the end of year three, they get what remaining in money they invested back. But all along the way, as that company hits profit sharing operations, which they should be hitting that this year, this is the second year in, then they'll also start to receive a portion of profit sharing of that company. And that is where we fund all the land, but we moved production builders from South Carolina, North Carolina, and South Carolina down into Southwest Florida. And they're just building workforce housing. So homes that are in that, right around that $300,000 price point, maybe 350. And it's down in Southwest Florida, hurricane proof, above flood level. It's exactly what's needed down there. After the last couple of hurricanes went through there and did what they did, a lot of people are like, no longer am I going to be sitting in one of these 1950s, 1960s homes. I'm worried my, roof's going to get blown off or I'm going to get flooded out of here. So, you know what's funny? I always talk about that. People are like, oh, you live in the Midwest where there's tornadoes. I'm like, yeah, well, you live in California where there's fires and earthquakes and mudslides. And they're like, yeah, yeah. Or you live in Florida where there's hurricanes, or like Houston. And how many times you had a hurricane come through there and flood that area? People will live where natural disasters are. Some of them might move, but people will still move in and people will stay. If natural disasters were a problem, New Orleans would be a ghost town, right? So just remember that. People are always going to live wherever there's natural disasters. They'll always rebuild. The good thing is what our team is building down there, hurricane proof, above flood grade, in a place where people still want to live. Florida's still a great state. They're talking about getting rid of property tax down there too. That's on the table. If that happens, they have no federal income tax either. Holy crap. You
That'll
might
be a
pay more for
boon.
food, but
Yeah, right.
let's see.
That's awesome.
So yeah, got that question. Accredited and non-accredited, Jay, no problem. They just have to fill out a questionnaire and we'll figure out how much they can invest. Expect our investors to make in the low to mid teens every year. That's kind of the average. And let's see, I've been working with these partners that I fund for 10 years. So solid track record. And if you did miss it, BRD Land Investment is really the entity that we're funding now. We've funded enough scattered lots for the build teams. We don't really need to worry about funding any more of that. Right now, we're mostly funding BRD Land Investment, and they sell their projects to the biggest national builders in the country. And a lot of people don't know this. I could talk on this for a whole day or a couple days, but a lot of people don't know this. The top 10 builders in the country build like 60% of all the rooftops in America. Actually, it might even be closer to 70%. DR Horton alone in the fourth quarter of 2023 told all their division presidents across the country that they wanted to double their production, which is crazy. They built 90,000 homes last year and they want to double that. And
Jeez.
when they're looking at land, a lot of people are like, yeah, but I hear builders have too much inventory and they're slowing down, and the mortgage rates haven't come down, which they are slowly starting to creep down right now. Mortgage applications were up 20% this last week because the rate dropped a quarter point, and crazy. But when builders are looking at ground, they're looking 3-4 years out. So when they're putting stuff under contract with us, it's because they've got to keep their pipeline full. It's going to take them a year to do a 400 lot development, get all the infrastructure in place before they can even put a house up. And they don't want to take ground onto their balance sheets until they're ready to build. And that's where what our operations have done has made this so highly attractive to the national builders. If it wasn't attractive, we wouldn't be sitting on $1.5 billion of developments. That's almost 56,000 lots in 5 states. And guess what? Dirt never goes down in value. It just keeps getting more valuable. It's kind of like gold in a sense, but you'll see some fluctuations in gold, but you won't see the fluctuations in the dirt. It's we make it more valuable all along the way. And every time a new permit or easement or entitlement or sign off comes from all the many different places that a sign off has to come from, that the cost of that land just goes up. Here's a little extra info, probably a little bit too much info, but it's just good that you guys understand this. A lot of people are like, yeah, but what if the builders cancel? We've had 2 builders cancel on us in 5 years. We actually don't even care that they did it. They canceled in the 11th hour. Meritage was one of them. As soon as they canceled, within 48 hours, we had that same piece of ground under contract with DR Horton for $1.2 million more than we had it sold to Meritage, because the value keeps going up every month. We had another one cancel with Mattamy. We had it sold for less than 48 hours to DR Horton for $800,000 more. So we actually don't care if a builder cancels, because they usually put it under contract, lock it up with due diligence for like 90 to 180 days. And then they push it out and take advantage of extensions. They try to push everything they can. When they get to the end and they can't do it anymore, we just had a $33 million deal where they had $2.5 million invested in due diligence and initial work. They canceled in the 11th hour. It was a $33 million sale. We get to keep their $2.5 million. And now we actually have several different builders coming in looking at it. And I can't talk about the one, but that'll probably go for close to 50 million now. So I don't care. We lend to them. Oh, this one didn't happen. Oh, you mean you're going to have to pay that 25% interest for another 12 months? Okay. We're fine with it. And they don't care because they're making a hell of a lot more money on the deal. There's so many things about what we call paper lot land entitlement business that so many people just are not aware of. Most people know the basics, and it's not as simple as grabbing a piece of ground. And, a lot of people think you can't get into ground. You got to hold it for like 30 years before it becomes valuable. Our teams are out there finding stuff that fits in a window that can be developed and go vertical within a 2 to 3 year window. So, and they're doing it all day long. Just think about it wherever you live. You remember when that was farmland? Remember when that was cows and corn, or maybe pot fields? Who knows? It could have been something like that out there. Wild pot. But you remember that? The little tiny town that was nothing? And then you're like, holy crap, there's a bunch of houses out there. It happens faster than you think. And regardless of what people think, our population is growing exponentially. And, there's not enough rooftops in America today. We're on estimate about 7.2 million units short in America of enough homes to satisfy the population that we have. People are living with their parents longer because they have to, because prices went up and there's not enough houses built. And right now, a lot of the nationals are moving towards what they call starter homes. So smaller footprint, lower price point to combat the fact that the rates are a little bit higher. But like I said, rates just started dropping a little bit, and we saw a 20% surge in mortgage applications this week. It's crazy. So much goes on behind the scenes.
Well, I was gonna say we're getting close to the top of the hour, so I didn't know if
Mhm.
anyone had one last good question or anything from that end. I didn't see any others pop up, but while I give people a chance to think of a question, if you're getting one, direct, let me know. But again,
No, everybody's doing it to everyone. I've put my contact info in there. And
yep.
guys,
And Brent,
the thing that you're looking for is just a confidence level, right?
mhm.
We keep it simple. We have great communication. Your clients will be well taken care of. If you have the opportunity to invest, toss a little in with us, see how it works. It'll help you sell more policies. It'll help you gain more clients. And just remember, you're getting to hear from somebody that's not out there just we're not Grant Cardone and the 10X and the fact that I think they paid out around 3% to their investors. I know people that invested with him and a lot of money, and they're like, man, he doesn't hit anywhere near the returns you do. And I know a lot of other guys in the industry, and they all typically pay a little less than we do. You don't have to wait. People start earning immediately. They start seeing distributions immediately. And that's really where, you know, that confidence level comes in. And we are regulated. So
That's the
I've got
most
to comply
important
with
part.
SEC. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the most important part because there's a lot of people out there who combine money together and throw it in things and it's not regulated. I think that's the thing that will really help people understand. And again, all of this will be covered in May 3rd and 4th, May 4th specifically for you. We're just definitely going to scratch the surface on this right now, but there's a whole lot of opportunity that we can provide to our customers to give them the value proposition to, beat things like, I don't know, tariff war concerns, destroying the market, all the other stuff. When you talk about contractually fixed double-digit returns, reposition a portion of the assets there beats any bond you got, So, long story short, it just gives us another story that we can get in front of clients, provide value. You're finding the money. Then, what can you do with those returns that they're getting? Reinvest it, put it into insurance, put it somewhere else, and start moving money around. But those are decisions when you talk about holistic planning. You have referral partners like Rockstar Capital that can provide that value proposition to help you out. So we'll hear from Brandon at the Great Collaboration, May 3rd and May 4th. And we'll also hear from the guy who referred him to us, Carson Porter, who will talk about how to leverage these type of resources to get that $1 million premium ticket. So prices are still $25 up until April 1st when it goes up to $100. So book them now if you can, tgcconference.com. So we'll wrap. Thank you so much, Brandon, for coming in.
Yeah.
And, he's got his phone number up there, email address, readily accessible. Appreciate the time and definitely look forward to seeing you in about 2 months. So, yeah, all this will be up on the YouTube channel by tonight. And appreciate everyone staying around and have a great rest of your day.
Fantastic. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you soon.
See you guys.